On our anniversary, my husband took me to a fancy restaurant. Halfway through dinner, his parents walked in and sat at a table nearby. They said, "We thought you'd want company." My husband didn't seem surprised. Turns out, they helped him pick the spot and made a reservation right after ours. Just in case. I'm a 42-year-old woman living in Seattle, Washington. My husband, Mark, and I have been married for 15 years. We don't have children, but we have a dog named Max who is like our child. Mark works in tech, and I am a freelance graphic designer. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, like any marriage, but I always believed we had a strong foundation. We communicate, support each other, and make time for date nights. So, when our 15th anniversary was approaching, I was excited. Mark told me he made reservations at Canlis, one of the most upscale restaurants in Seattle. I was thrilled. We don't usually splurge, so this felt special. He said he wanted to make this anniversary memorable. We arrived at Canlis and everything was perfect. The ambience, the view of Lake Union, the soft piano music, it was all so romantic. We ordered wine and started with some appetizers. About 30 minutes into our dinner, I noticed Mark kept glancing towards the entrance. I asked if he was expecting someone, and he just smiled and said, "No, just enjoying the evening." Then I saw them, Mark's parents, Susan and Robert, walking towards our table. I was stunned. They greeted us with big smiles and said, "We thought you'd want some company." I looked at Mark, expecting him to be as surprised as I was. But he wasn't. He stood up, hugged them, and said, "Glad you could make it?" I was speechless. This was supposed to be our romantic anniversary dinner, just the two of us. Now, his parents were joining us uninvited. They sat at a table nearby, not directly with us, but close enough to be part of our conversation. Throughout the dinner, they kept interjecting, asking questions, and sharing stories. It felt like a family gathering, not an intimate anniversary celebration. I tried to hide my disappointment, but I was hurt. I had been looking forward to this evening, and now it felt hijacked. After dessert, I excused myself to the restroom. I needed a moment to collect my thoughts. When I returned, I overheard Susan telling Mark, "I'm glad we came. It's important to celebrate these milestones together." Mark replied, "Absolutely. Family should be part of these moments." I felt a lump in my throat. I realized this wasn't a spontaneous visit. Mark had planned this with his parents. When we got home, I confronted Mark. "Me, why did you invite your parents to our anniversary dinner without telling me?" "Mark, I thought it would be nice. They wanted to celebrate with us." "Me, but this was supposed to be our special night. Just the two of us." "Mark, I didn't think you'd mind. We're family." "Me, I do mind. I was looking forward to an intimate evening with my husband, not a family dinner." "Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it would upset you this much." I went to bed feeling hurt and betrayed. This wasn't just about the dinner. It was about feeling like my feelings didn't matter. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake off the disappointment. I needed to make Mark understand how it felt to have something special taken away. So, I planned a little surprise of my own. Mark's birthday was coming up in a month. I told him I had planned a special evening for just the two of us. He seemed excited. On the day of his birthday, I told him to meet me at a local jazz club we both loved. When he arrived, he found me sitting with my parents, my sister, and a couple of my close friends. "Mark, what's going on?" "Me, I thought you'd want some company on your birthday." "Mark, I was expecting just the two of us." "Me, I didn't think you'd mind. We're family." He sat down, clearly uncomfortable. Throughout the evening, I made sure to focus my attention on my family and friends, just like he did with his parents on our anniversary. The next day, Mark confronted me. "Mark, I didn't appreciate being blindsided like that." "Me, now you know how I felt on our anniversary." "Mark, I get it. I'm sorry. I should have considered your feelings." "Me, I just wanted you to understand how it feels when something special is taken away." After that talk, I thought maybe we had turned a corner. Mark said he understood. He apologized again and promised to make it up to me. But things didn't feel right. He got quieter, shorter with me. Still polite, still present, but distant. Like he was being careful with his words. I thought maybe he was embarrassed. Or maybe feeling guilty. I tried to give him space. Then about 2 weeks later, I noticed he started coming home later. No big deal at first. He said work was stressful, project deadlines, a new guy messing up his code. Normal stuff. But it became every night. He'd come home tired, barely eat dinner, say he was too exhausted to talk, and go to bed. On weekends, he'd either sleep in or disappear to run errands for hours. He stopped planning things. Even stopped walking Max with me, which we used to do together every morning. I didn't jump to conclusions right away. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Until I found the receipt. It was in his jacket pocket. A small, crumpled receipt from a wine bar in Capitol Hill. Dated last Wednesday, 9:23 p.m. He had told me he was working late that night. I stared at the receipt for a long time. My heart dropped. This wasn't a bar we ever went to. It wasn't near his office either. I didn't say anything that night. I just watched him when he got home. He looked worn out. Or maybe just pretending to look worn out. He kissed me on the cheek, muttered "long day," and went straight to bed. That night, I barely slept. I wasn't going to accuse him without proof. I didn't want to believe he was lying. But something had shifted. Something was off. The next morning, I called in sick. I needed time to think, to plan. I went through his stuff. I know how that sounds. But after 15 years of marriage, after the anniversary dinner thing, after the cold shoulder and the lies, I needed answers. I checked his laptop first. He's careful, but not careful enough. In his browser history, I found the wine bar's website. Visited 3 times in the past month. I found an Uber receipt in his email, too. Dropped off at the same bar. He was going there regularly. And lying about it. I didn't find anything else, no messages, no pictures, no names. Just the evidence that he was going somewhere and not telling me. I needed to see for myself. The next Wednesday, I told him I had a client dinner and would be home late. I kissed him on the cheek and left around 6 p.m. I parked near his office and waited. Sure enough, around 6:45 p.m., I saw him walk out of the building. He didn't go to his car. He didn't even look around. He called a rideshare. I followed. The car took him straight to that same wine bar in Capitol Hill. I waited 5 minutes and then walked in. I didn't go up to him. I stayed by the bar, hidden behind a plant. And there he was, sitting at a small table, across from a woman. She was maybe late 20s, stylish, dark hair. She was laughing at something he said. Her hand touched his arm when she leaned in. It didn't look like a business meeting. It didn't look casual. They looked comfortable, familiar. I watched for maybe 20 minutes. Then I left. I didn't sleep that night. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. I didn't even cry, I was too stunned. The next morning, I put the receipt on the kitchen table. When Mark came in for coffee, I sat down across from him. "Who is she?" I asked. He froze. His eyes went straight to the receipt. He didn't even ask, "What are you talking about?" He just stared. "I followed you last night," I said. "To the wine bar. I saw you with her." He rubbed his face and sat down slowly. "It's not what you think," he said. I didn't say anything. I just stared. "She's just someone I talk to," he said. "A friend." I laughed. A bitter, tired laugh. "Does your friend know you're married?" He looked away. Over the next hour, Mark tried to explain. Said she was a coworker. Said she was going through something. Said he just needed to get out of his head. Talked about pressure. Expectations. Feeling like we were stuck. I listened. Not because I believed him, but because I needed to hear how far he'd go. He never said her name. Never admitted anything happened. But he didn't deny it either. Didn't apologize. Didn't even try to reassure me. He just kept talking about how he felt. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just about one dinner or one woman or one lie. This was about how little he actually saw me. After that talk, things didn't get better. They didn't get worse either. Just hollow. Mark didn't move out. He still slept in our bed, still made coffee, still walked Max a few times a week like nothing happened. But the tension between us was thick. We stopped talking about anything real. He didn't bring up the woman again. And I didn't ask. I was watching, waiting, not because I was hoping he'd come clean. I knew better. I was planning something else. But before I could act, something unexpected happened. It was a Friday afternoon. Mark had left his phone on the counter while he took a shower. He never does that. He's glued to that thing. I wasn't planning to snoop. I really wasn't. But then it buzzed. A preview popped up. Hey, that article you sent me about couples therapy really got to me. I want to talk more. No last name. Just, couples therapy? I opened the phone. The lock screen was off. There it was, a full thread. Dozens of texts going back weeks. Her name was Melissa. She was a coworker, but not just someone going through something. They weren't just meeting for drinks. They had talked about me. About our anniversary dinner. She even knew about his parents crashing it. Apparently, she helped pick the restaurant. I froze. She helped pick the place where I sat, dressed up for my anniversary, thinking it was a romantic surprise. And she knew he planned to let his parents ruin it. They weren't trying to surprise me. They were setting a stage for something else. That weekend, I visited Mark's parents. I didn't tell him I was going. Susan greeted me like nothing was wrong. Robert offered me tea. I sat down and looked them both in the eyes. Did you know Mark's been seeing someone else? Susan's face twitched. Not shock. Recognition. I don't think that's my place to say, she answered. That told me everything I needed to know. You helped him plan the anniversary dinner, I said flatly. She nodded slowly. We were trying to remind him of what's important. What's important? I asked. Family? She didn't answer. I stood up. I hope it was worth it. After that, I started gathering paperwork. Quietly, methodically. I wasn't sure yet if I'd leave. But I wanted to be ready. Then something else happened, something that made my decision easier. I found an email thread on our shared desktop. Mark forgot to log out of his work account. There were messages between him and HR. Not about me. About Melissa. She had filed a complaint. 3 days ago. Mark had been written up for inappropriate workplace conduct. She claimed he'd made her feel uncomfortable after she tried to set boundaries. Turns out, the connection Mark thought he had with her, it wasn't mutual anymore. It might never have been. He was spiraling and dragging me down with him. That week, Mark didn't come home one night. He said it was a work emergency, but I knew better. When he finally walked through the door the next morning, I didn't ask anything. I just stared at him. He looked rough, unshaven, eyes red. He went straight to the bedroom and passed out. That was when I made the call. I booked an appointment with a lawyer. The lawyer was a woman named Paula, early 50s, sharp eyes, no fluff. I handed her the printed messages between Mark and Melissa, the HR emails, the receipts. I told her everything, from the anniversary dinner to what I saw in that wine bar. Paula didn't react much, just nodded and took notes. When I was done, she looked me in the eye and said, "You have options. A lot of them. The law is on your side." We went over everything, assets, property, savings. Mark and I had bought our house together 10 years ago. Paid off most of the mortgage. We didn't have kids, but we had a shared business account for joint projects I sometimes took on with his tech contacts. She said I could legally pursue that too. "What do you want?" she asked me. "I want him to feel what I felt," I said. Blindsided. Humiliated. Alone. She smiled, just slightly. "We can do that." The first step was subtle. I moved half our savings into a new account in my name. Legally, I was allowed to. I'd contributed to it equally. Mark didn't notice. He was too busy, working late, and spiraling over his HR issues. The second step, I reached out to Melissa. I sent a short message, calm, civil, just told her I knew what happened and that I wasn't angry at her. I said I was sorry she got dragged into something messy. I didn't expect her to respond. She did. She sent me everything. Screenshots, messages, voice notes. It turns out Mark had been love-bombing her, even while pretending everything was fine at home. When she tried to pull back, he guilted her, pressured her. She got HR involved because he wouldn't stop showing up outside work. She said, "I thought he was just confused. Now I think he's dangerous." Exactly 1 year after that disaster of a dinner, I told Mark I made reservations again at Canlis. Just as this time, I promised. He looked relieved. Hopeful. "I've been thinking a lot," he said. "I've made mistakes." I nodded. "We both have." I wore a red dress. The same one I wore last year. He wore the same suit. He even brought a small gift. A silver bracelet. We got a table near the window. Same view of Lake Union. I let him order the wine. I let him talk. He apologized again. Told me he'd go to therapy. Said he hadn't been himself. I smiled, nodded. Then I pulled out the manila envelope. "What's that?" he asked. I slid it across the table. "My gift to you." He opened it. Inside was everything. The lawyer paperwork. The screenshots. A signed declaration from Melissa. A printout of the account transfer. Copies of the HR complaint. A notice to vacate the house. Divorce papers. He just sat there, frozen. Face pale. Hands shaking. "You planned this?" he whispered. "Exactly 1 year ago, you let your parents ruin our anniversary. You let a woman you were cheating with help pick the restaurant. You sat across from me and pretended we were fine." I leaned forward. "Now you know how it feels." The next day, he was gone from the house. Max stayed with me, of course. I changed the locks, emptied the garage, and boxed up his stuff. Hala filed everything. Word got around. Some of Mark's coworkers reached out to say they were shocked, but honestly, a lot of them weren't. Turns out he had a reputation. Melissa wasn't the first complaint, just the first one that stuck. I sold the house a few months later. Moved into a cozy condo near the lake. Max loves it. I started walking more, drawing more, saying yes to new things. For the first time in years, I felt light. The last I heard, Mark was let go from his job. Quietly. No big announcement. Melissa had transferred departments. HR didn't want to deal with more drama. His parents tried to reach out. I ignored them. They had chosen their side long ago. Sometimes I wonder if he ever drives past the old house. If he ever thinks about that night at Canlis. The gift-wrapped divorce. The look on his face when he realized he wasn't in control anymore. I don't regret anything. I made mistakes too. I waited too long. I stayed quiet too long. I let him walk over my boundaries in the name of peace. But not anymore. This story doesn't end with forgiveness. It ends with freedom. And honestly, that's the happiest ending I could ask for.